Good morning, everybody. Hope you had a great weekend. Today we have a triple header. We're going to be decoding a Quantum Leap reboot from 2022. We're also going to be decoding a couple of other films called Don't Worry, Darling and Smile. And so many of you have asked me to look at those films. I did look at them. I screened them. That will be towards the end of the show. But to get started here, we're going to look at and break down the Quantum Leap 2022 reboot. Now, before we do, I want you to listen to this 2016. Let me pull this up here. This 2016, this was the year that Trump got elected. Quantum Leap spoof. Now, this was done on The Late Show. Of course, this is Stephen Colbert. And this aired 2 days after Trump's birthday. Let's play this and listen very closely to what they're talking about here. Now, this little boy here is Donald Trump at 12 years old. And of course, this is a spoof. And we're going to look at the original footage of this from the actual Quantum Leap episode in just a second here. But watch this and listen.
Oh no, Scott. Now there's an 80% chance that instead of real estate, Trump gets into bioengineering and ends up cloning dinosaurs who devour anyone who questions the word of Mega Pope Trump.
I'm going to play that back one more time so you can hear what I just heard.
Oh no, Scott. Now there's an 80% chance that instead of real estate, Trump gets into bioengineering and ends up cloning dinosaurs who devour anyone who questions the word of Mega Pope Trump.
So there we have a bioengineering, DNA cloning aspect to all this long before the pandemic, long before COVID-19. Even before, well, I guess this was just after he became president. This was 2016, so he hadn't won the presidency yet. So, bizarre. Now, what does the cab symbolize in this scene? I believe the cab represents back, because if you spell cab in reverse, it spells back, like Back to the Future. Now, here's the original episode of Quantum Leap in which this appears. This is from 1992. And the episode's called It's a Wonderful Leap. Now, the reason why it's backwards is because this particular scene is heavily censored across the internet. In fact, we're only going to be able to play a few seconds of a snippet at a time to avoid the algorithms burying this. Now, why would the social media entities be working together to hide this information that's damaging to Trump? It's because they're all on the same team. They just pretend to oppose each other to get us all opposing one another. Now, what's this 1992 episode about? Now, here's this video. This is a video that we did back in, let's take a look at this. I want to show you guys this. January of 2019. We uploaded this video. Look at how many views it has. You would think that this would have went viral a long time ago. So, the point I'm trying to make here is that the corporate media is working together to hide damaging information against Trump unless it fits into their paradigm, which is the right-left paradigm, right? If it's opposing the left and causing a stir and, and all that, then they like it because then people go out and vote, they give their consent, and they keep the charade going. But when it comes to real stuff like this, the 58 matrix, which you're going to hear next, they bury it. Listen.
Leaping around in time, I've run into many people.
Now, this date right here, May 10th, 1958, is Trump's mother's birthday. Now, let's keep watching here because you're going to hear him say a few things.
But never overboard. Hope you don't mind sharing a cab. Oh, no.
So there's Fred Trump and Donald in the back, in the middle. And there's the same cab scene we saw with Colbert, which was the spoof. Let's keep watching.
It's just right up ahead here on Fifth Avenue. Where are you going? Brokers meeting.
So, and again, I'm pausing this just for copyright reasons. Let's keep watching here.
New York Realtors. Come on, Donald. Hello, Mr. Trump. Ah, well, you know there's going to be a lot of money made in real estate.
So he talks about a lot of money being made in real estate, and keep watching.
Future.
Really? Where?
Come on, Donald. Hello, Mr. Trump. Well, I bet there are going to be a lot of taller buildings all around here.
So he starts talking about tall buildings, and then listen to what he says next.
And there might even be some big glass tower right there next to Tiffany's.
Talks about a big glass tower next to Tiffany's. Now, what are they talking about? Well, welcome back to the future. Because this year, Tiffany's has announced that they will be opening a big glass tower on top of Tiffany's. Now, where is Tiffany's? Tiffany's is sandwiched between Trump Tower and the IBM building. Here you see the IBM building here, and on the other side of it is Trump Tower. Now let's keep watching here, because this remodel has not opened yet. It was set to open in spring of this year, but it has not opened yet, and I can't find any updated information on this, but it's basically a rooftop addition that's made in all glass here. And in between, this is right in between the two towers. Now, what could all this mean? Well, listen next as I break down the 58 matrix. Watch this.
Come on, Donald.
36, 37, 38, 39, 40.
The Donald Trump 58 matrix. You won't believe. The Trump matrix begins in 1958 in this episode of a Western-themed show, which originally aired on CBS. It began making its rounds shortly after Donald Trump was elected president. The episode includes a con man named Walter Trump, who enters a dusty town in Texas to scare the locals into believing that the world will end in a rain of cosmic fire unless they let him build a giant wall to protect them. He says, "I am the only one, trust me. I can build a wall around your homes that nothing will penetrate." Now, I'm pausing it here because since the airing of this decode, there have been many more developments surrounding this Western as well as the 58 Matrix. So in this Western, this Trump character not only offers to build a wall, he also sells umbrellas. Syringe umbrellas that we have now found. The umbrella represents the syringe. Hands down. They both share the same part. An umbrella and a syringe have a part called a ferrule, which is near the tip. What else has developed since his decode is that Trump would win the 58th quadrennial presidential election. And he would win that 58th quadrennial election 58 years after 1958. Let's keep watching. The episode was titled "The End of the World." And in fact, it ends with Trump being shot and apparently killed. Now, we've all seen this clip, but what you haven't seen is what I'm about to show you next. There is something about the year 1958, because Trump also appears in a 1992 episode of Quantum Leap that you just saw. That episode is set to the year 1958, May 10th, the same year as the Western. And 58 years after 1958, Trump would become president of the United States. Now let that sink in for a second. 58 years after 1958, he would win the 58th quadrennial presidential election. Now, if you tell me that's just an accident, then this is probably the wrong channel for you. We also found out after this that Mar-a-Lago has 58 rooms. Lots of 58 surrounding this, aren't there? That seem to point to a foreshadowing or foreknowledge that he would win the presidency. Let's keep watching here. I'll say that again. 58 years after 1958, Trump would become president of the United States. So when did the 1958 Western episode of Trackdown air? May 9th, 1958. So Track Down the Western aired on the eve of his mother's birthday, of the date that was in Quantum Leap. So literally, because this is when it aired. Unbelievable. Let's keep watching here. That's the eve of the date that Quantum Leap was set to, in which Trump appeared. Now we all know that in Back to the Future, it starred Biff Tannen. And the original Back to the Future, released in the mirror year of 1958, 1985, 85, 58. But it goes deeper because Biff would go on to be depicted as Donald Trump in the 1989 sequel. You begin to wonder, is time travel real? The 58 Matrix goes on because on the eve of the 88th day of the year, March 28th, March 29th is the 88th day of the year, Trump, or Biff, he turns 21 and uses a sports almanac to bet on a horse race. And that is how he wins his first $1 million. How old was the real Trump in 1958? 12, 21. Another Back to the Future mirror. Now this is all a whole lot of script writing acrobatics across multiple episodes to be just some kind of coincidence. So now you may be thinking, did anything weird happen when Trump was 58 years old? And in fact, something did. He married the First Lady of the United States, Melania. So wrap your brain around this. In 1958, when Trump was 58 years old is when he married the future First Lady that basically he would win the 58th quadrennial election 58 years after 1958. Unbelievable. On January 22nd, 2005. That's almost exactly 11 years before she would become the First Lady and he would be inaugurated president. And I'll leave you with this last bizarre synchronicity from the film called The Devil's Advocate. And it released on October 17th in the Hebrew year 58. So this is the Hebrew year that The Devil's Advocate released, 5758. That's the Hebrew calendar. Okay. And of course, this was filmed in Trump's 66th floor penthouse of his 58 story Trump Tower.
These are the Republicans of New York.
You know, Bart, you always overstate things.
Donald Trump was supposed to be here.
Donald Trump was supposed to be here. Donald Trump was supposed to be here.
Whoops, sorry. Didn't mean to show you guys that. I was going to try to put that out of there. Okay, let's keep watching here. So So that was Deborah Monk, the woman in the mirror, the man in the mirror. And look at this.
Stand here.
She was born the 58th day of the year. And the only one in the Devil's Advocate film to mention Donald Trump by name. So, they already knew, you guys, they already knew. This is some kind of high sorcery. So to believe in these people and vote for them, you're giving consent literally to the devil.
Marion, this is Pam Gear. Marion, this is Pam Gear.
So, look at her earring. It's got the spiral portal. Now, this is an older video, of course. We're recapping this because some people don't understand why we stay focused on Trump. And I'm showing you this so you can see that something is not right. So, the only actress to mention Trump's name in The Devil's Advocate was in fact born on the 58th day of the year. And if the setting for the Devil's Advocate building looks familiar, it should. Because it's the same architect that designed Trump Tower. This world is run by demons. It always has been, and it always will be, until Christ's return. Take care and be safe. So, we also later found out that there's a scene in The Devil's Advocate that's actually filmed in Trump Tower as well, in his penthouse. So, is he the Antichrist? People keep asking me over and over and over again. Well, I don't know that. I can tell you for sure, though, he is the Devil's Advocate. Now, I had to show you all that to set the stage for what we're going to see next. Let me make sure you guys are with me. And we're going to keep going with this decode. Oh, geez, I pull up and it says 666 on the screen. We're probably stuck there. Okay, now it changed. Jeez. Okay, so let's keep going with this. This is what you call spiritual attack. Now, the reboot series opens up with what appears to be a bank robbery. I'm going to start playing that for you now, and I've got the sound turned off because the new little trap they like to set for us is to play soundtracks in these movies that then trigger the copyright and bury the video. So I've got this muted because they're playing a David Bowie song here. Okay, so let's play this. This is the opening scenes of the Quantum Leap reboot is what you're looking at. This just released in just weeks ago in 2022. And it appears to be a bank robbery. What I want you to notice is the telephone booth. Okay? There's the telephone booth there, with businessmen standing in line to use the telephone. He then looks up, he sees the movies of the time, which this was, the time setting here is 1985. But look at the meter here. 86. Now, even though this takes place in 1985, the real year is 1986. Now watch this, because they appear to be doing a bank robbery, but they steal C4. Watch this. They run between the 1986 and the telephone booth, right? Now, what is so important about 1986? Well, it's a time travel year in Hot Tub Time Machine in the movie. And you're going to see this number 86 repeat several times throughout this series. Now, why are they stealing C4 out of a bank? It doesn't make any sense, does it? Well, we'll get into that and understand why. But first, we're going to talk about the telephone booth, because we had already decoded the telephone booth, hadn't we? We figured out that the phone booths are metaphors for the Twin Towers. What do you mean, Casey? That's freaking ridiculous. Well, it's aluminum building full of money. That's what a telephone booth is, and that's what the Twin Towers were. And remember, we decoded the mathematical dimensions of the phone booth. And we found out that a phone booth is exactly 1/77th scale to the Twin Towers, which would essentially be a 2.7 by 2.7 by 17.76 foot tall phone booth. So a really tall phone booth, but with the side-by-side dimensions of a regular phone booth. The 1776 is what gave it away, because that would become the new height of the Freedom Tower once the two towers were gone. Do you see what's going on now? They took a 17-foot tall phone booth, and that becomes the Freedom Tower. Now, let's continue to break down this scene here. Because if you think about this scene, you don't steal C4 from a bank. So what's this all about? Let's play this through.
Do you know them?
No. Better stay sharp.
There's another 86 in the registration of the window. So now you know that I'm not just making this up. Twin 86s. Now what's up with this C4 aspect?
Yeah?
Yeah, totally.
If he would leap into people.
So let's back this up. What's up with the C4 aspect to all of this? Now, do banks have C4 in them? Actually, they do. Where did I put those? Oh, here we go. Commercial cash centers, casinos, and central banks have what's called the BPS C4. Well, what is this all about? Well, this is Telesprint. These are basically cash machines, C4 banking and lending. Here's a cloud-hosted core banking omni-channel card and lending platform called C4 inside of banks. So technically, banks are full of C4. Now, what is this all about? Well, the joke here, let's go back to the scene. The joke here is that it was in 1986 that these explosives were likely planted. And that on 9/11 they blew up the bank basically to reset the currency. That's the inside joke here. Blow up the bank, reset the currency. And this is why you see this Twin Tower metaphor here. You see the 1986, which is when it happened. And all of this is next to the theater, which means the whole thing was a theater production. As he looks up at the theater. Double feature, right? You guys awake now? Double feature was the double towers. Boom. Now, I do believe that C4 was one component of the destruction of the towers. There were several components. It was likely a three-pronged attack. They could have been placed there to soften the target. And 1985, 1986 would have been the year that Building 7 was constructed. Building 7 fell, well, the construction of it was built at exactly the halfway point between the building of the World Trade Center and the fall of the World Trade Center. So, in other words, World Trade Center opened in 1973. 14 years later, Building 7 opened. 14 years later, they all came down. The exact halfway point. How did they know? Building 7 was 47 stories tall. And it opened in the Hebrew year 47. So, the Hebrew year 47 is 1987. That's the halfway point. And this is when songs like Meet Me Halfway and We're Halfway There, Living on a Prayer came out. Now, how could these explosives could have been planted? Well, there were likely underground tunnels connecting Building 7 to the main towers. And I'm sure at night when everybody went home, there's plenty of access to be able to do this. Now, why would we say this? Well, Building 7 was a command center. It was a reinforced building. It had CIA, FBI. There was all these IRS. They were all in that building. All the highest level security. They had their own water supply. They had their own network. It would be completely plausible if there were tunnels underground connecting Building 7 to the rest of the World Trade Center. In fact, it's likely that there were. Now, the bank explosives was just one phase of this. And they state this in this here, but let's keep watching here.
What the hell are you doing? Get the fan! Do you know them?
No. Better stay sharp. Yeah?
Yeah, totally.
If he would leap into people and then need to help them put right what once went wrong, and then the whole process would start all over again. 30 years ago, Quantum Leap was created by Dr. Sam Beckett.
So, obviously, the entire premise of the series is about twin spirits, as you just heard her describe. It's the leaper inside the host body. In other words, the serpent in the chest, or the man in the mirror. Here you see him looking at himself in the mirror, the man in the mirror, but he's different than the man he sees in the mirror. That's the Janus spirit. And you're actually going to hear a character named Janus in a minute here. But before we get to that, understand that 1986 was the time travel year in Hot Tub Time Machine. And it just so happens that Biff was confronted by Marty in Back to the Future. He was confronted by Marty about the sports almanac as he was sitting in a hot tub. Let's keep watching here.
Ask him. Do what he did.
You were working on a...
Okay, so I put these parts in here because you're going to see these phones, the telephones. This will confirm it all for you that I'm not crazy talking about telephone booths full of money, because look at this. There's the telephone in focus in the background, and then he walks to the other side of the room, and there's a twin telephone.
Do what he did.
You were working on...
He sits down, there's another phone back here, so they want you to know this is about telephones. Now, the copper phone theme persists because copper will be the catalyst for the final serpent possession of humanity. I firmly believe that. Essentially, all of us are passing through a sorcery portal, is what's happening. And the more you're involved in their agenda, the voting, the getting stuck on things, and all of this, the more you will fall into this portal. This is why those of us who didn't get involved in all of that, we feel foreign. We feel like the world's passing us by because we didn't go along with it. You see? Let's keep watching here.
On a new algorithm for the last 5 years that would fix the Quantum Leap machine.
Yeah, we got it.
Here's another 86 in case you think I'm just making all this up. Another 86 on a card here. Let's keep watching.
Listen, here you go.
Now, their plan is to use the C4 to rig up an event to basically cause panic, some future gala or some gathering that's about to happen. And what they want to do is the Hope Diamond is going to be basically at this event, the Hope Diamond, and they want to replace it with a fake. And they want to use the C4 to terrorize the people at the event. And so that's what the plan is. And I believe that this replacement of the Hope Diamond is really a metaphor for humanity being replaced with fakes or twin spirits.
That's the Hope Diamond.
Ryan is on his way to steal the Hope Diamond, which, makes zero sense because it was never stolen.
Actually, that's not entirely true.
Now, of course, there's an agenda. They always have to throw in the Transformer agenda, which makes these series very difficult to watch. But look at this. Look at the numbers surrounding the Hope Diamond. Originally sold in 1666, that's 666. That was the first time that they could record that it was sold, and the last time that it was donated, and where it sits today, was 1958. So, both Trump numbers, right? 66th floor penthouse in a 58-story building. Unbelievable. Now, of course, the quantum leaper, Ben, he thwarts the plan. Now, how does he thwart the plan? Watch this. Because with 19 seconds left, he drops the C4 into a swamp sewer where it explodes.
I'm assuming I could just pick it up?
I mean, you should be able to. Just be careful.
Unbelievable. Let's keep watching.
Give it a few.
Okay, step back, I'm dropping it in!
Now, you guys will remember the 7 Days TV series. Remember that episode where they dropped the explosives in the ground, setting off the San Andreas Fault? Well, we have ourselves a little running theme here, don't we? Planting explosives underground. The double feature.
When two particles experience a shared state, they no longer exist as separate entities.
So, here they talk about quantum entanglement, and I think that's what this is all about. I believe their whole thing with quantum entanglement is the serpent in the chest. It is the twin possession. And this is what I've been trying to show you guys for years. This is their plan. They want to wipe your soul and prepare for a new demon. And in fact, Ben loses his memory when he jumps through time. So there's a clue there.
Law of entanglement.
The what now?
They exist as one. Even when separated by great distances.
So now you're starting to see the agenda. Quantum entanglement, Q-Entanglement. Think it's an accident that this whole, how the truth movement was co-opted by Q? Do you think that was an accident? Do you think it's an accident that crypto co-opted the truth community? These are CIA operations to undermine the truth community. And it's done an effective job, hasn't it? Look at all the deceived people in our community. And here they're telling you the truth about all of it right in plain sight. But yet people criticize me for decoding all this stuff, but they show you what they're doing right here under our noses. Now, Ben leaves clues before he makes his first jump. I want you to look at the time on the phone here.
His phone.
Of course, the 46th, that was the year that Trump was born. So they realize that there's a mole somewhere in the department who's working with Ben. And the mole's name is Janice, of all names that they could have chosen. Watch.
Addison.
I was able to recover this image last night. The woman helping Ben is Janice Calavici.
Calavici? Like Al Calavici?
Locate him and
Right.
to at least consider the possibility that Ben has been co-opted by Janice. We have to at least consider it.
So they think that Ben has been possessed or co-opted by Janice. And of course, Janice is the two-faced God holding the key. He is the man in the mirror. Now, hopefully we've made the case. The Gemini Trump and the God that he's channeling, Apollo, Janice, they're all one and the same. The man in the mirror, possessed by Janice. And this is basically the end of the first 2 episodes of the series. So I've got probably more episodes to go. Now, someone told me that the series got canceled. I don't know that, but we will stay on the case. Now, I'm going to go back in the chat with you, and then we're going to switch gears because we are going to cover a couple of films that I just screened. Make sure you guys are with me. We're not buffering or anything. And we will keep going with this. Now, I screened a couple of films over the weekend, and I'm not going to do a full decode on them, but we're going to talk about them. There wasn't quite enough symbolism to do a full decode with screen captures and everything. And also, there's a lot of audio-visual sorcery going on that I don't want to expose you guys to. So I got to be careful about this stuff on a spiritual level, not to make things worse, but also learn what's happening as well, and comparing it to the Bible and comparing it to what's happening right now and their agenda. Someone said a couple bots came in. Let's see if we can find the bots. Always get the bots. Why won't YouTube do anything about these bots? I don't see them. So we don't have mods anymore. And I think that mostly works out, except when we get bots in the chat. Well, we'll deal with that later. Let's keep going with this. Now, what are these two films that I screened over the weekend? Well, one of them is called, let's find it here, Don't Worry, Darling. Now, this film was creepy. It's about a couple who lives in an enclosed community. And it's like this utopia. Here's some screenshots from the film. And so this is the couple here. Seem like a nice couple. They live in this community. It's all closed in, surrounded by desert. But the community is pristine. And the men in the community go to work every day, just a few miles away to a secret project site out in the middle of the desert. And the film is set to like a 1950s theme, which is like conservative, traditional America. You know, like it's kind of like the theme that Trump keeps saying he wants to take America back to. Okay. Now, all the wives in this little community stay home with the children. They raise the children. And this is the theme of this show, this movie. Now, all of a sudden, things start to get really weird because a few of the wives begin to realize that something is not right, that things are not what they seem. The husbands never talk about work. They never talk about what's going on at work. And it's all a big secret. And the wives begin to realize that things are just too good to be true, that something is not right in this little utopia. And they honestly get tired of the same routine. Like, it's okay some days, but most days they wake up, she makes the breakfast, she pours the coffee, makes love to her husband, cleans the house, he comes home, make love again, and this is like her life. And this is where the damaging programming comes into play, because this film is all about feminism. Because basically she's not listened to, she's belittled when she starts raising concerns, she has absolutely no power in the relationship, and this is the programming that they want you to believe about the traditional marriage. Feminism has destroyed the traditional marriage, and this is actually what destroyed my marriage. We had a perfect life. I had a great job out of college, bought a house at like 20 something years old. We owned our home, children were safe, and I thought everything was perfect, but she was unhappy, and all she kept saying was that she wanted more in life. She felt unfulfilled. She felt like she didn't fit in or relate to anybody. The other stay-at-home wives were from much wealthier families, and she felt like she couldn't keep up. And the more independence that she gained, that I tried to give her to help her feel more complete, the more she challenged and defied me for just dumb stuff, just stupid things. Now, obviously, there are two sides to this story, and I'm not saying this to bag her, but that was the theme. And here I was thinking, this would be any woman's dream. Like, this would be my dream if I was a woman. I would like want to be home with my children and, you know, make my husband happy. You know, have a beautiful home. We had a church we went to. You know, and I wasn't one of those controlling people. Pretty much, you know, let her do what she wanted. Now, I don't blame her. I blame the subtle programming. like this movie, like stuff like this that diminishes women's importance in these roles. And it's probably destroyed more marriages than you can count. We've all seen it, but nobody talks about it. Now, I was just talking to a friend from California that I've known for 30 years. And he told me that his brother's wife, who seemed so happy over the years that I'd spent with them, we did a few barbecues together over the years, long time ago, back when I was married. And she just up and one day asked for a divorce. This was after decades of marriage. And this was 1 year before he was set to retire from the federal prison system. By the time all this happened, he was making $150,000 a year. And I had no idea that someone working in the federal prison system could make that much money, but apparently it happens all the time. And the poor guy was so depressed that he quit 2 years before retirement. So I asked my friend, I said, well, what happened? Why? I thought they were happy. He said, well, he was always stressed about money. She wanted to go on trips. She wanted to do all these things that he would rather not do. And she spent them into debt. She wanted the cars and basically to live the life that she thought she should be living at $150,000 a year. And so that's what destroyed their marriage. Now, guess what? She's set up to take half his retirement and receive alimony for life, even if she gets remarried. So we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars in benefits just for being married and getting to stay home and raise her own children. And so now you see the problem. There is a power shift that does not reward marriage. I mean, what person do you know that when times get tough, they realize that they can just cash out and take half your money and start over? I mean, what's stopping people from doing that? With the internet, basically middle-aged women are now attracting younger and younger men. So what's stopping them from upgrading to something different? No more rules, no more budget to follow, complete freedom, and you get a $2,500 to $3,000 a month check. So now you see how everything is backwards in this modern definition of marriage under the state. I don't subscribe to the modern definition of marriage under the state because it's all backwards. It's set up to fail. It's set up to dangle many temptations toward one person who could sabotage the whole thing. I'll give you another example. My sister was married to this guy, and he never had a job. And I'm giving you a fair balance statement here because it's not just women that do this. He never had a job. My sister worked really hard. She still works hard. And this guy, they've been married for almost 10 years. He never had a real job. Now, there's some other things that are part of this story that I'm not going to go into because you don't need to know all of my personal life. But let's just say he had the ability to get a job and just really never did. And he blamed a lot of other things as to why he couldn't. Well, guess what? My sister now is on the hook for alimony for life. Now, in her case, she doesn't make as much as the other people that I just mentioned, but this could be a substantial amount of money. She might have to pay this guy $500 a month for being a deadbeat. And so now you understand the problem. Anytime you add the devil's legal system into your life, your personal life, it will create chaos. Best thing to do is not be in any legal agreements of this system. Now, the Bible does say in the last days they would forsake marriage, and so we're not supposed to forsake marriage. But what is the real definition of marriage? Isn't really marriage an agreement between you, the father, and your wife? Isn't that what marriage really is? Now, did you hear me anywhere in there say the state or the federal government? Because there was no state or federal government. There was no Caesar in the garden and in the first several generations of man. You see. So now you understand the problem. Now you understand why I have a problem with films like this. Because the exact same story played out in this series. Now, what else do we have here? So, my friend's brother basically is going to pay alimony for. Oh, so my friend, I just told you the story about his brother. Now I'll tell you his story. Same thing happened to him. He worked in the federal system as well, as a prison guard, and his ex is getting half his retirement, and he only had to pay alimony for 8 years. They settled some kind of agreement, but I just don't understand what's fair about that at all. Like, shouldn't they at least back out her average annual earning potential for the years that she didn't work and credit that back toward the retirement? I would think that might be fair, because she was part of the marriage, but you would think that they would make some kind of amends because they're both raising children, I don't know. It just seems backwards to me. So back to this movie. So they make it a point to belittle the wives and make them look powerless. And this is supposed to enrage females that are in marriage right now. It's supposed to enrage you and get you scratching your head and thinking, oh, my husband doesn't listen to me anyway. Either he makes all the big decisions. Well, maybe I should be more of a force in this marriage. Okay? And by the end of the movie, the wives realize that none of their life is real. That it's all basically a simulation. And that they were tricked into this simulation. A simulation where their husbands would have all the control and the perfect life that he wants, the submissive wife at his beck and call. But in the real world, the two of them are laying inside of a pod, having their entire reality streamed into their consciousness through their eyes. And that's how the movie ends. This woman realizes that she's laying in a bed somewhere with her eyes plugged into this matrix and that none of it's real. And in real life, her husband is not very handsome at all. He's kind of like a jobless loser. And he got tricked into being part of this experiment and tricked her into joining up. She's the breadwinner in real life. She's like a nurse, an emergency room nurse. And he's like this stay-at-home loser guy. And so it's just meant to enrage people, or enrage women is what it's really meant to enrage, okay? Now imagine if you're a feminist and you're in this movie watching all this play out. I mean, you'd probably be just about ready to reach over and strangle the nearest man that you could find. I mean, this even got me upset. But then I woke up to it and I'm like, wait a minute, this is feminist programming. This isn't real. This isn't how modern marriages are. Men don't do this anymore. Men have lost all their power, as I just described to you. Imagine people leaving the theater after this one. Imagine the fights that couples got into after watching this. Now, here's the problem. Literally, no wives stay at home anymore and raise kids, even if they're financially able, because they feel like they can't relate to anything in our society. There's no place for them anymore. They aren't even given the decency of being marketed to anymore. It's like they don't exist. So, this wife finally escapes and she sabotages the entire project, and all the men one by one lose their power as the wives wake up to the lie. And you can imagine all the feminists in the audience just cheering. I'm sure they were clapping and this is crazy. And this is why I didn't show you clips of this. It's just toxic. It's just toxic, you guys. It's toxic. Now, let me go back in the chat and we'll talk about the last film that I want to cover today. The film is called Smile. And basically it's about a psychiatrist who sees a patient who is possessed by a curse. What is the curse? Well, it's a smiling demon who basically drives people insane to the point of suicide. But then the demon transfers into whoever witnessed the suicide. Let me show you the Wikipedia for Smile. Here's the movie cover poster. Unbelievable. Now, what else happens here? Well, The therapist watches this patient kill herself, and then the therapist then picks up the demon over the course of a week, because that's about how long it takes for that person then to kill themselves in front of a witness. She tries to solve this mystery and try to figure out what's driving her insane. She just starts losing it. She's hallucinating. She's seeing this thing in shadows and darkness. This is why I didn't show any of this to you, because this kind of stuff can stick with some people. Now, nobody believes her. She tries to tell people, look, I'm being stalked by this entity or whatever. And so she does some research, and she tracks this demon back to 20 suicides in this chain of possessions. And in the end, she can't escape it. She still gets possessed, and she lights herself on fire in front of another witness, which continues the chain. Now, here's what bothers me about this film. I'm going to mention specific elements of this film. I'm not going to show you clips, but I'm going to mention elements that actually appear in this film. And then I'm going to go back here in the chat as I'm describing this to you. And I want you guys to tell me what happened in real life that was foreshadowed in this film. In other words, something happened in real life long after this film completed filming. Okay, I'm back in the chat now. Let's go over these elements. I'm just going to talk about them, and then we'll see who gets it first. So, in the film, there's an aerial scene, a scene from like a drone, of a woman being pulled from an ambulance as she struggles to get off the gurney. Then, of course, you saw in the movie cover poster a woman unzipping her own body bag. And finally, in the movie, the woman experiences extreme paranoia, yet nobody believes her that she's being haunted and chased by a demon. See who gets it first. Now, where did this happen in real life? There you go. S. Michael got it. And Hesh. There you go. Right there. Now, I'll say this again. The scenes that I just described to you actually appear in the film. A film that completed filming long before the events surrounding Anne Heche's death. Now, how can that be? Well, that's up to you to decide. That's up to you to decide. Now, the demonic entity acts much like a virus. It infects its hosts through fear. There's the bot. Let's pull this up here. Let's get the bot. Kill the bot. Where'd he go? Okay. Hide user on this channel. Very good. Now, that's pretty much it for today. Now, I do want to tell you guys, do not click on any of these bot sites. If you hear someone talking about crypto in my channel, do not fall for it. A couple of you fell for it. I saw you replying to some of these crypto bots in the comment section, and some of you actually signed up for it. Look, all of that's fake. Those people are replying to each other, and they're all fake. And it's troubling to me that YouTube doesn't do anything about this. But I believe it's because they want everybody on crypto. It's blockchain, chain to the block. I would seriously consider at this point the channels that you follow that are still pushing crypto and blockchain. I would seriously do a double take. I've lost many friends on YouTube who fell for the trap. I'm not saying they're bad people, but I'm just saying our goals are not aligned anymore. I think a lot of them are just being deceived. They're being tricked. And I can't be on those channels if they're still talking about that stuff as some kind of a good thing, because it's not. They're using all of this to collect data, using all of it to basically create the future blockchain where you won't be able to buy or sell anything without going through the chain. And then soon after that, cash will become obsolete. And you'll be taxed on every single thing you do. But if you buy a cup of coffee, you'll be taxed on it. Or sell a cup of coffee, let's say that. Or sell some lemonade or whatever. You won't be able to do it without the blockchain. So, that's what's going on. Let's go in the chat here and do a little Q&A. So hopefully you guys understand that what I'm trying to tell you guys today, look, I'm not trying to bag, an ex. I truly do not blame women who go through these kinds of feelings in a marriage. I don't blame them. I blame the programming. It's the program. In other words, shouldn't a stay-at-home mom be one of the most valued and loved and admired and upbuilding roles that could ever exist in our society? Shouldn't the marketing be upbuilding them and making them realize how important their contribution is to their children and their husband and their role, and all of the love that they'll receive once their children are older and they have grandchildren, and tying together the family unit? I used to always truly believe that if mama isn't happy, nobody's happy. And that is the truth. The woman in your life is not happy, nobody's happy. Her children aren't happy, she's not happy, nobody's happy. So the goal of most men is to please their wife, to make them happy. So I'm not saying this to bag on women or be negative toward women. They're victims, just like men are victims. Men think that they have to make a bunch of money to make their wife happy. That's not the case. But that's what society says. That's where the focus has been. That's what men think they have to do in order to be an equal partner in a relationship. It's not even equal anymore. You got to make money to get the woman you want. It's unbelievable. So those are just words. It's meant to encourage you guys and to help you avoid pitfalls, and also uplift women to understand that your role is very, very important. It's one of the most important roles that you can do. It's hard for some men to love naturally like that. For women, you're born with that ability of nurturing and love. And the more you take care of the plant or your children, the better it's going to be for them in our world. It's so important. It's so important, you guys. So, do not forsake marriage, but you got to find people who are outside of this matrix, outside of the programming. It's very difficult to find. It's very difficult to find. And that's what's going on, you guys. All right, let's go in the chat here. Zoom you guys up. All right. Now, of course, my son's returned home with me, and he says, "Dad, we had a great life." I go, "I thought we did too, son." I go, why wasn't your mother happy?" He goes, "I don't know." He goes, "I think it's the whole feminist thing." He even realized it. And I do not preach to him about my channel. I don't really talk to him about my channel. At all, pretty much, and he's like, "Yeah, Dad, we were in private school. We owned our own home. We drove nice cars. Well, what was the problem?" I go, "I don't know, son. I'd like to figure it out. I think we got to the bottom of it." All right. OG Casey Fish Gang for life. Genesis Revelation. How would females want to do what the dudes do anyway? Thanks, L. Rich. I really appreciate that. Man, you guys, those of you that have followed the channel, I've been praying for this for about 10 years. I've cried with you guys about it. And here he is. The prodigal son. It's amazing. I learned a lot from him. He's a really bright kid. So, he's 23. And I'm looking forward to spending many more years with him. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize it until they get older, Snowball. We just have to have faith. Now, many of you told me, have faith, have faith. Everything is going to come full circle. And I'll admit, I didn't have the faith that I should have had based on the encouragement that I got from you guys. You're like, he'll come back. And that's exactly what happened. What happened was he realized, he woke up one day and he saw the feminist agenda being applied to his life personally, and he rejected it. And then that's when he had a fallout with his mother, He's like, no, that's not the way the world is. Luckily, he woke up. He wasn't brainwashed by it. Basically, he told me that in his age group, all men are hated. They're bagged on constantly, basically told to off themselves. And this is what he told me the world is like for a 23-year-old right now. That unless you have lots and lots of money, you're looked at as a loser. What kind of world have we created? Where is this programming coming from? Thanks, Eric. Is what I'd like to know, and it saddens me, but he rejected it. He's strong. He has a strong self-worth. He's happy to be with his dad where he knows he's safe, that, you know, I'm going to upbuild him. Oh gosh, here's another bot. Jeez, kidding me. Oh my gosh, Lord help us. Jeez. All right, got rid of them. I guess it's good they popped their heads up because I'm going to bop them in the head, right? So that's what's going on. And, you know, it took him some time to recover. You know, when he first came to stay with me, he was very depressed about what he had just gone through. His mom programming him to believe that he was some kind of a victim because of his color, and you know, just getting bagged pretty much on by every female in his life, telling him he was a loser and blah 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 and da da da. And then he had an epiphany, realized he wanted to be with his dad. And now we have a plan. We have a great plan, and we have a future of independence from the system. And I'll actually have something to leave him at some point. And he's uplifted instead of beat down and made to feel like he's a bad person. He's like the greatest child of, you know, that I've ever seen in terms of his peers. So, and I'm sure I'm just partial, right? All right. Okay, you guys, I'm going to go ahead and pop off here. We do have a show tomorrow. Tomorrow's show, we're going to dig into the roots of the dollar. Now, this is crazy. Of all the work that I've done decoding the dollar bill and money, I thought I'd figured it all out, but it actually goes a level deeper. The word dollar finds its roots, or lack of roots, should I say, in a particular lichen, a hybrid blue blood bacteria hybridized with a fungus which has no roots and no stem. It's basically a flat piece of lichen. That is where the dollar and the name for it came from. We're going to break all that down tomorrow. We're going to talk about mycelial networks, the hive mind, pulling you in to a symbiosis with the demons and the devil. That's what the roots of the money actually means. Oh, brother, we have another. Oh, okay, no, that's not a bot. Oh, sorry. Now when I see hearts, I think it's a bot. So, I've already got tomorrow's show started. I've got to get on it after this show. It's probably going to take me all day. So I want to do a good job and show you all of that on tomorrow's show. I love each and every one of you guys. Have a great rest of your day. Take care and be safe.